Okay, we can start. I know you can start.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome back. We will continue the discussion on chapter 8. If you remember, last week we took a pause and reflected a few things. So I will do a quick recap of what we reflected in 5 minutes, and then we will go to the final topic of chapter 8. Then you will understand why I spent almost an hour explaining what is a belief and why, means what is the criteria for us to take a belief seriously, and what I'm going to talk again, it cannot be proven. So uh, it is up to you whether to take it or not. So all those pointers were given. I was trying to be as honest as possible, because if I just say that everything is written here is convincing to me, I'm not doing a justice to myself. So I try to be as honest as possible. So that was the thing. We said the final portion of this chapter, or this chapter as a whole, is not aligned with the total subject matter of the Gita, but it's not an infiltration or penetration into the subject matter, because this is also an important topic. So we talked about this chapter. The subject matter of this chapter is called Upasana, and the key idea or the core idea here is, please listen to this very carefully, because this idea is very important to understand what we have been talking about this chapter. So the core idea of this chapter is the ultimate solution for the human suffering is moksha, or knowing yourself. Once you know who you are, there is nothing to be worried. It is going to free you up from all the suffering. All the problems we have is because of our false identity with some tools given to you for expressing yourself in a given place and a given time. If you really think about this, or if you reflect upon the series of discussions we talked about the Swapna Drishtanta. In a dream, I think I am the dream body. Any suffering to my dream body, I take it as my suffering. And when I wake up, I realize that that is not the case. Because I realize that even though my dream body didn't survive the dream time and dream space, but I survived the dream time and dream space. And who am I? I was not the dream body, I was not the dream mind, but I was something else. I was the consciousness. And just like that, in the current time and space, I take myself as my body and my mind, and any suffering to the body and the mind, I take it as my suffering, and I get into a lot of issues. So the solution for me is to shift my identity from the dream body, dream mind to the actual Atma, knowing that the the body and the mind are important upadhis or instruments for me to transact in this world in this time. So if somebody says that the body is not important, we don't accept that, because just like the dream body is so important for me to interact in the dream world, just like that much importance is there for this body and this mind. So I need to take care of my body. I need to take care of my mind. I need to make sure that the body's needs are taken care. And if something happens to the body, I need to take care of that. But know that I do have an existence outside of this body. So the solution is this: knowing yourself. So this solution can be attained, or this end goal can be attained only through knowledge. Because if ignorance is the problem, no other action other than knowing myself or knowledge will not resolve the problem. If the problem is ignorance, the solution is knowledge. It is very clear. It is crystal clear to any elementary child. For example, I'm sitting in North Brunswick, and I don't know that I'm sitting in North Brunswick. I think that I'm in California or San Jose, and I want to go to North Brunswick. So tell me how the person sitting in North Brunswick can go to North Brunswick. No action of mine is going to take me to North Brunswick because I'm already there. So the only thing I need is the knowledge. How can the 10th man discover the 10th man? Because there is no 10th man outside of himself. So the only solution is knowledge. But we found that if you want to know something, you need to use the appropriate means of knowledge. The classic example we said is, if I want to see an object, I need to use my eyes because that is the means of knowledge. And appropriate means of knowledge is important to gain knowledge. If I want to listen to a sound, I cannot use my eyes. I will have to use my ears. That is the logic. And then along with using the appropriate knowledge, I need to make sure that there are sufficient conditions, minimum prerequisites. For example, if I am using my eyes, I need to make sure that there is sufficient light in front of me. Otherwise, it will not work. I cannot see anything. So that is the problem. So how do I make sure that what exactly is the right means of knowledge for knowing myself, and what are the prerequisites? We saw that in detail. The means of knowledge is Vedanta or the scriptures, because in Patanjali Yoga Sutra also you will see Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agama are the Pramanani. Pratyaksha means the direct means of knowledge, your sense organs. Then Anumana means your inference, your logical conclusion. That is another means of knowledge. And the third means of knowledge is the scriptures, because the scriptures reveals the truth. It is a revelation from the absolute. So we takes the scriptures as a means of knowledge. But for you to employ the scriptures as the means of knowledge and gain knowledge, there has to be some prerequisites or some conditions that needs to be accomplished. And they are Chitta Shuddhi and Chitta Sthiti. So the Karma Yoga is going to give me that Chitta Shuddhi, and Upasana Yoga is going to give me that Chitta Sthiti. So here in this chapter, Krishna was focusing more on the Upasana. So a person who has purified his mind through the Karma Yoga and who practiced Upasana Yoga extensively, what happens when he leaves the body without fully knowing the truth or without realizing the truth? What happens? He takes a different route and he goes to a loka called Brahma Loka. And from Brahma Loka, or different plane of existence, he won't come back to the other world and reborn because of the karma, but he just goes to this Brahma Loka, and there he gets exposed to this teaching, and eventually he gets the mukti, which is called Krama Mukti. Another mukti we talked is Jivan Mukti, is in this world itself, you are exposed to the teaching with a purified and a controlled mind, and there you discover yourself, and thereafterwards no travel, because once you realize that you are the Atman, there is no travel. So this is the two things. And the third category is a practicing yogi. He is doing karma yoga, but not go to that level of upasana. That karma yogi, what happens? He will go back and come reborn again. So this is the three different scenarios. And the fourth scenario also we said, a bhogi, he is not at all interested in teaching. Definitely he will go and come back. So this is the four different scenarios we talked. And now we said, in the final portion of this chapter, Krishna is going to talk about this Krama Mukti little bit more detail. Again, I made it very clear that this portion of the Gita, there is no way for anybody to verify. So when you have a teaching which cannot be verified here and now, that is a matter of belief. When can you experience it? I talked about the example of going to heaven. That is a post-mortem reward. And this is also a post-mortem reward. And this complex karma theory, it is you can choose to believe or you can ignore this. For being a Vedantin, this belief is absolutely not must have. And again, you cannot prove it and you cannot disprove it. Last week, we spent a lot of time in analyzing this topic. We said 1000 anecdote is not a replacement for a proof. We made it very clear. Means, so if you listen to some people, they just ask you to believe it, but I am very honest here. So this is a matter of belief. And then we try to examine what is a belief. We defined belief as a hypothesis you make, which is subjected to correction upon verification. If you remember that, that is exactly the definition we used. So a belief that is subjected to correction upon verification. And then I told you, right, one important question I asked you last week was, is a belief a matter of choice? Initially, somebody said yes, but we took different example. For example, initially, all the kids in this country used to believe in Santa Claus, and eventually, they understand that. Once they understand the fact, they cannot believe it. So if you hold on to some illogical belief, that means you are not exposed to the truth yet. So most of the time, what happens is your religious belief or your cultural belief, it is childish belief. Whatever you believed in the childhood, you never improved upon that. You never invested time and energy to understand that proper. And then some beliefs, it is impossible to understand beyond a certain level. So such cases, we said we need to use certain criteria to take that belief. The first one is that reasonable? Is that reasonable belief? Then second thing is, sometimes we may not even know. For example, this belief, the belief of Krama Mukti, the belief of going, taking the Uttarayana and the Dakshinayana path, we have no idea. So in that case, what to do? Important, then the second criteria comes. I'm just talking, this is from the scriptures, okay? I'm not making it up. So the scriptures tells, if you want to take your beliefs very seriously, you have to use two criteria. One is that reasonable? If that is not reasonable, what is the next thing? Anybody remember?
Beneficial.
Exactly. Is that beneficial? So this is the criteria you can apply. So to the teaching that we are going to discuss now, you can employ these two criteria. First is, can you prove it? Because then I need to go and experiment it. Here, that is not possible. Second thing is that reasonable? We don't know. It is definitely not fully reasonable and it is not fully unreasonable. I cannot prove it. I cannot disprove it. That's the fact. And the third thing is it beneficial or not? Again, it is subjective. The conventional karma theory, 100% it is beneficial. It is logical, because if you don't believe in the karma theory, how do you explain the difference in the whole universe? Absolutely reasonable. And it is beneficial because psychologically it is going to help us a lot. It is going to make us more responsible. It is going to own the responsibility. It is going to make me own my responsibility rather than just thinking that, okay, it's God's wish. When I born, the God has written like this. So whatever I do, there is nothing. The karma is going to make you responsible. The karma is going to give me an opportunity to improve my life. The karma is going to make me more efficient. So that is the karma theory. But this belief, it is up to you whether you want to believe it or not, and you can decide. Let me pause here. Let's have a 2-3 minutes discussion. Anybody has a different thought? You might have studied this differently. But one principle I would like to follow here is honesty. We need to do that. Any comments?
Yeah, Rajesh.
Excellent. So one point is I'm using Krishna's own methodology. One teaching Krishna himself gives us is don't believe anything blindly. So this is means it's not definitely an unreasonable belief, and there could be benefits also believing in it, and it is okay. That's fine. But take it as a belief and use your logic. Okay. So before that, any question in the overall theme of the chapter, how it fits with the overall idea, and the only extension is we are saying that along with Jivan Mukti, there is one more option here. Okay, if not, we can continue. So Anu, could you please chant verse 23 to 30? Sorry, 23 to 28.
Okay.
This is the last portion of this chapter.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Ashtamodhyayah Akshara Parabrahma Yogaha Yatra Kale Tvanavrittim Avrittim Chaiva Yoginaha Prayata Yanti Tam Kalam Vakshyami Bharatarshabha Agnerjyotirah Shuklaha Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vido Janaha Dhumo Ratristatha Krishnaha Shanmasa Dakshinayanam Tatra Chandramasam Jyotihi Yogi Prapya Nivartate Shukla Krishne Gati Hyete Jagata Shashvate Mate Ekaya Yatyana Vrittim Anyaya Vartate Punaha Naite Sruti Partha Janan Yogi Muhyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna Vedeshu Yajneshu Tapassu Chaiva Daneshu Yat Punya Phalam Pradishtam Atyeti Tat Sarvamidam Viditva Yogi Param Sthanamupayiti Chadyam Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Akshara Parabrahma Yogo Nama Ashtamodhyayah.
Beautiful. Excellent. So if you had listened to that chanting, there is one line Krishna said, Tasmad Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna. That much Sanskrit you all know. Can you tell me what is the meaning? Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna. What was Krishna's advice? Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna. Meaning?
Steadfast in yoga.
Exactly. Establish yourself in yoga or practice yoga. When? Is it at the time of death?
All the time.
Sarveshu Kalishu. So that makes it very clear, right? It's not a shortcut. So that's point number one. So now, this is a topic everybody is very interested. So I'm going to tell the thing. So these verses are going to talk about the two types of yogis. within yogis itself, there are two types. One is a yogi who has gone to the advanced stage of upasana, who practices this Om meditation, and who practices this meditation at the time of his departure, or he forcefully or he willfully depart his body. That is one type of advanced meditator. And the other types of yogis, some of them would be in the beginning stages, like all of us, or some of them would have even advanced. So what happens to each one of them per the teaching? This advanced yogi, what is going to happen? What is his trajectory or the gati?
Mamukti.
Krama mukti, exactly. So he will be taken to Brahmaloka, and from Brahmaloka, he will gain the mukti. What about the other people, other yogis? They will have another gati. So it is said that they will be taken to another loka called Pitraloka. Pitraloka could be multiple different levels of experiences. So they will go there and they will come back. So one category of people, one path, one trajectory, that soul will not come back and reborn, because the soul will go to Brahmaloka, and from there he will get Jivan Mukti. Sorry, Krama Mukti. And the other soul will go to some other loka based on the karma, or just come back directly. So these are symbolically represented as two different paths. One path is known as Shukla Gati, and the other path is known as Krishna Gati. Shukla Gati, Shukla literally means white. The path, white path. The other one is called dark path. It doesn't mean that one is good and the other one is bad. First of all, let's take that idea. It just indicates that white path means you're closer to Mukti. You're going through that path and you will come back. And sorry, you won't come back. It is the Krama Mukti path. So the path to Brahmaloka is known as Shukla Gati, and it is for the advanced yogis, and it will not come back. That path will not come back. Whereas the second path is known as Krishna Gati, and that will take you to Pitraloka. And from Pitraloka, you will come back, either means it's for a momentary, like you go there, it means you will come back to the earth based on your prarabdha karma. So that is the second path. So these are the two paths, and the rest of the chapter is a symbolic representation of these two paths. And now you understand why I was going through that 1 hour last week, to make it present it in the modern context. That was the goal. So let's understand, start with the verse 23. So Anu, could you chant the 23?
Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshabha.
So here I would use a different translation. The word kala, typically it is translated as time, and even in this translation it is translated as time. There is another way to quote or translate this as path. So there are two paths. Krishna tells there are two paths. One is anavritti. Avritti means what? Avritti in Sanskrit or avritti in our local language means what? Repetition, frequency. So here means anavritti means there is no repetition. So that will not come back. So there is one path that which will not, the soul will not come back. And then avrittim chaiva yoginaha. And then there is another path which forces you to come back. So yogis, the practicing yogis, can have potentially two paths. One path is a path which will force you to come back, and another path is a path which will not make you come back. So these are the two paths. So that is the first two lines. And then he tells, right? So whoever takes that path, again, I won't use the word time here, the column, it is the path. So prayata means the travelers. The travelers who takes this path. Which path? I'm going to explain you in detail. So this is what Krishna promised. So try to understand, right? So now come back to the argument we had earlier. The practicing yogis can be considered into two different levels. One is the advanced yogis who are immersed in the upasana. That is yogi category 1. Category 2 is yogis who have not yet reached that level, who are still in the karma yoga path or still doing the karmas. So the karmis as well as the karma yogis, they will take a path, and that path will force you or force them to return. Whereas these advanced meditators, they will not come back. That's the meaning of this verse. Any questions?
But here he's not talking about the Jivan Mukti.
Not at all. Good question. The answer is what? Is the Jivan Mukta going to take any path?
Oh, no. Okay.
Correct. So the Jivan Mukta, the soul will not exist after once he passes the prarabdha. The physical body will dismantle, subtle body will dismantle, because that is no more, means the individual is no more identifying with the physical body and the subtle body. If the Atma, if you are not identifying with the physical body and the subtle body, they won't function. So once the prarabdha is over, there is no movement or no transmigration for a Jivan Mukta Purusha. So a yogi, advanced yogi, or a yogi in the beginning stage, or even the karmis, they will come back because of the prarabdha, and these advanced yogis will not come back because they go to Brahmaloka. And Krishna tells, I am going to talk about the path they are going to take. So the first path is Shukla Gati, the white path, or you can say that it is Uttarayana Gati. And consider this as two different routes. So one route leading to the Brahmaloka, the other route leading to the Pitrloka. The problem with the Pitrloka is what? Once you go there, you might be sent back to somewhere else. That's it. So sometimes you may, if you believe in heaven, sometimes if you have done, I'm just going with the Puranas. This is not with the Gita theory or anything like that. If you have done so much of Punya Karma, you might be sent to heaven for a while. And once the Punya is over, you will have to come back. If you have done a lot of wrongdoing, you will get into another plane of existence where you will have some unpleasant experience. Then you will come back. Means you can choose to believe so. Or you can believe that you go to Pitrloka, depending upon the prarabdha, you will come back and reborn in the earth, or even reborn into somewhere else, but you will be reborn. That is for sure. This is the Krishna Gati. So the next two verses, he is going to explain what is Krishna Gati and what is Shukla Gati. And this is very symbolic. We need to spend and understand the language of the religion connected with the modern language. Otherwise, this would go over our head. So let's try to understand the next verse. Okay.
Adnir Jyotiraha Shuklaha. Sorry. Is it? Okay. Adnir Jyotiraha Shuklaha Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata gachanti brahma vido janaha.
Okay, very interesting, right? So tatra prayata gachanti, right? Brahma vido janaha. So that yogis will reach the Brahma Loka. Krishna said that who says that? The people who knows the truth. He said, again, this is a matter of belief. That is why Krishna said, I'm going to just talk about the first path, and that path is described in the first 2 lines. But the last 2 lines, he said, if you take that path, which is known as Shuklagati, the soul will reach the Brahmaloka, and that is what the learned people said. And what is the speciality of this path? So the speciality of this path is Agni. Agni means fire. Jyotir, light. Ahaha, day. Shuklaha. Shuklaha means what? It is the moon, the waxing moon. Yeah. So that is then Shanmasa Uttarayanam, the 6 months of the Uttarayanam. So this is the characteristics of this path. So let's pause and try to understand. So imagine that this is a route, and a soul is getting boarded to a system, and there are laws that takes the soul to the Brahmaloka. This is the language of the religion. Okay, so let's talk about the language of the religion, and let's come back to the language of the science. So per religious language, when a soul departs, that soul will be taken through this Shuklagati, the path of white, by a certain set of devatas. And who are all that devatas? One is Agni. So first it will be received by Agni, and then it will be handed over to Jyoti, light, and then another devata, which is the devata representing the day. Then the devata representing the Uttarayanam. These devata will make sure that that soul is taken to the Brahmaloka. That is the language of the religion. Very confusing, correct? So let's try to understand. So if you remember, in the 3rd chapter of the Gita also, we discussed this in detail. What is a devata?
Deity.
That's a religious language, right? What is devata?
It's a deity.
It's an attribute.
Again, deity, the definition means it is a religious discussion. Remember, the approach we tried to take was, one approach is religion, other one is science. So if you explain the idea of a devata to a modern person, how do you explain?
Material.
The order of the universe. You know, someone who controls the order of the universe.
Right. So let's think through this. When you open your eyes and look around, you cannot but miss. There are so many laws in this universe. If I drop this pen, what is going to happen?
Gravity.
It falls down with a particular velocity, with a particular acceleration, 9.8 seconds per second. What do you call that?
Gravity.
It's a law of the universe. It is gravity. And when Sir Isaac Newton discovered that law, Isaac Newton didn't invent that law. When Sir Isaac Newton discovered that law, we call that as a law. We named as I say universal law. When Kepler found the planetary motion, like 3 laws he created. We don't know how that law came in. What was the contribution of Kepler or Newton or Einstein or Schrodinger? Did Einstein invented the law of, means the theory of relativity?
He discovered it.
He just discovered it. Newton discovered the law of gravity. Newton discovered the law of motion. And there are other laws of motion also, right? So, for example, means I always give this example. You breathe the oxygen. How that oxygen is sent to every cell. Your food, the digested food, is circulated to every cell by the blood. How that thing functions. So if you look at the whole universe, you see an order everywhere in the universe. An order means a precise law. So in the language of religion, each of that law is governed, because if a law needs to be executed flawlessly, there is a governing principle. Why there is a governance body in the modern world? Without that governance body, do you think that all the law will function? So the governance body, here in this for the universal law, the scriptures call it as intelligent principle, intelligence of the universal order. The universe, there is intelligence programmed into every aspect of the universe. When I was talking about the 3rd chapter of the Gita, I was talking the heart. It started beating the day you born. And faithfully it will beat till the end of our life. Why? There is a programming. There is an intelligence programmed in that. And that governance principle, which makes sure that the universal laws are executed properly. And even the deviation of the universal laws, right? If the hearts stop to perform, that also within the order. So this intelligence principle, we call them as Devata. This is, so what you call as the universal law or the scientific law, when you translate that into the language of religion, it is known as Ishvara's law. And the symbolic representation of that factor which governs and monitors that law is known as a deity. So Agni is the governance principle that controls the fire. So like that, every minute principle in this universe is governed by that intelligent order of the universe, Ishvara, and all that are deity. Is it clear? Because otherwise we need to discuss this. Otherwise this is confusing. This will confuse. Not this topic itself. Every deity. So is that deity separate from the totality? So the IRS is a portion of the government. Can you think that IRS is different from the government? FBI is also government. Do you think that FBI is different? Yes, FBI is different within that limited scope. But if you go one step further, it's all part of the US government. Like that, the Agni, Vayu, everything is separate governance principle. Within that scope, it is called as Agni. But when you look at in an overall picture, it is that one Ishvara. So Hindus do not worship multiple Ishvara. Everything is part of that total. It's an aspect of the total. So here we have said that a yogi, an advanced yogi who did lot of upasanas, his soul departs. So the governance principle of the universe or the intelligent order of the universe will faithfully make sure that that soul is not taken through the normal birth of rebirth, normal route of rebirth, but a separate route is created, not created, it will be taken through that separate route, which is known as Shuklagati, and this soul will end up in Brahmaloka. And what are all those deities? It is symbolically named as Agni, fire, light, Aha, day. Day means it is not the day, it's a governing principle, and the Uttarayana. These are the governing bodies which make sure that this soul is taken to the Brahmaloka. So understand this like this, right? There is a set of governance principle established by Ishvara. They will faithfully make sure that a soul of an advanced yogi reaches Brahmaloka. You can choose to believe it, you can ignore to believe it. It doesn't matter in your spiritual progress. But this is what the verse tells. Now, one more point. What is Uttarayanam? Uttarayanam and Dakshinayanam is two different phenomena you observe. Anybody know what is Uttarayanam? Very popular in our culture.
Is that the Makar Sankranti? Yeah.
Yeah, starts with Makar Sankranti. Go all the way till July. And from
January.
July to December, it is known as
Dakshina.
Dakshinayana. What is the speciality of this Uttarayanam and Dakshinayanam? Those who believe in astrology, they follow this a lot. What is Uttarayanam? Anybody knows?
Energetic part. Sun is.
So if you really look at these astrology books, you see that the suns started moving towards north. And Dakshinayanam, they say the sun starts moving towards south. Have you ever thought about the scientific principle behind this?
More sunlight.
Yeah, it is because of that movement, the season changes, right? The multiple seasons are there in the earth. The daylight duration changes. All the earth is earth because of that movement. Because otherwise, all the time it will be one season. There won't be any seasonal changes, nothing. But when people say that the sun is moving towards north, the sun is moving towards south, what does that mean?
Really, the earth that's going up.
Exactly.
To the
Yeah.
equinox.
Yeah, exactly. So the point is, when you look from earth, relatively, not absolutely, relatively, you can say that every day it appears that the sun is moving from east to west. Correct? The sun is moving from east to west every day. That is the whole thing, right? But from January to June, you can say that there is a slight lateral movement. Sun moves towards north. It is due to the Earth's movement. And the scientific principle behind this is Earth is not a perfect sphere. You can Google and research this. The fact of this Uttarayanam, Dakshinayanam is because the Earth is not a perfect sphere. So when it rotates, what is going to happen is at certain period of the year, right? The Earth is rotating the sun. So at certain period of time, because of its Earth's movement, you feel that the sun is moving towards north. And certain time frame, you feel that the sun is moving towards south. So symbolically, the movement towards south represents what?
Dark period.
Death. Right? So they say taking towards south. That is the direction of Yama, symbolically. And the movement towards north symbolically represents what?
Going to heaven.
Moksha, the eternality. So it's all symbolism. So too much symbolism comes here, and people get confused. And some people believe that. If you leave your body during this Uttarayanam, you will get moksha. Have you heard of that story? The thoughts?
So Rajesh, there is a story in Mahabharata that Bhishma is
I was
waiting.
coming to that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was exactly coming to that story. So what happened in Mahabharata is Bhishma was shot down much earlier. So if you think about that, the Gita was spoken sometimes in December, early December time frame, if you translate that into modern time. That is what is being celebrated as Vaikunta Ekadashi. And I know that is the time you do that chanting competition, right? Not competition, that chanting. Yeah. So that typically happens in December. And Bhishma was shot down, or which day of the Mahabharata battle? The Gita was spoken on the day 1 of the Mahabharata battle. After 10 days, Bhishma was down. Then the Mahabharata battle was over in 18 days, if you think about that. So sometimes in December, the Mahabharata battle is over. But Bhishma didn't want to live his life. So because he had a bone, what is that bone? I'm going to the story part of it. What is that bone? It is called Swachanda Mrityu. He was an advanced yogi. He has the skill of leaving his body at his will. So he chose not to leave his body till this Uttarayana comes. So this Uttarayana time, when at the time of Makar Sankranti, he chose to leave his body. Because this is a complicated karma theory. I will tell you the story, and if you ask me to explain, I cannot. So there is a popular belief, because a advanced yogi, right? Who can take the path of Shuklagati? An advanced yogi. An advanced yogi, let's say that an advanced yogi dies at the time of Uttarayana. What is going to happen? So this Puranas say that there will be a lag. Lag means these deities like Agni, what is that? Day, Uttarayana Devata, and the god, the deity of the light, they will hold the soul. And when Uttarayana starts, through that path, he can go to the Brahmaloka. So Bhishma chose to wait till then. Now, nowhere in the scriptures said that if you die in Uttarayana, that alone is a qualification for you to go to Brahmaloka. Because we already heard that. He has to be an advanced yogi. He should be practicing this Om meditation. All that has to happen. So some people want to die only in Uttarayana. And I heard that some people even choose to end their life during this Uttarayana time, hoping that they will reach Brahmaloka. These are all misinterpretations and superstitions. So this is the idea. So the whole idea is, if I bubble up and if I summarize it, we can say that the yogis can take two potential paths. One path is known as Shuklagati, which is through the Uttarayanam, and it is symbolically supported by the deities of multiple deities, and these deities or these governing principle will make sure that the soul will reach the Brahmaloka. Compared to that, there is another Gati, which takes you to Piturloka, and if you go to Piturloka, you will have to come back, whereas if you go to the Brahmaloka, there is no return there. So let's talk about the second path, which is the Krishna Gati. So verse 25. Anu, could you chant?
Sorry, I'm on mute. Dhumo ratristatha Krishnaha षण्मासा दक्षिणायनं तत्र चान्द्रमसं ज्योतिः योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते.
Okay. So yogi prapya nivartate. So the yogi goes to the Pitraloka and returns if you take the Krishna Gati. And what is the characteristics of this Krishna Gati? Again, understand that the soul means the yogi is not an advanced meditator. He is a practicing yogi or he is a karmi. So what happens? His soul is going to take the path Krishna Gati. And what is the deities that is going to support his soul? It is Dhumaha, smoke. Ratri, the night. The other cases, it was light and even the day, right? And then actually, Dhumo Ratristada Krishnaha, then Shanmasa Dakshinayanam. Dakshinayanam, it is the Dakshinayana deity or the 6 months related to the Dakshinayana. And Tatra Chandramasamsam Jyotir. Yeah. So then the soul will be taken by these deities, right? So Krishna Paksha deity, then the night, the deity that represents the night, the deity that represents the smoke. Again, a few governing principles, different governing principles will take your soul to the Pitraloka, but know that that soul will come back. That's it. So again, it's a matter of belief. What is the belief? Your soul, certain type of souls will come back, and the certain type of souls will not come back. The souls that do not come back, they will be advanced meditator, and they will take the path of this Uttarayanam, and that path is known as Shuklagati, and the destination is Brahmaloka. Whereas the other souls, they will be supported by a different set of deities or the governing principle, and they will end up in Pitraloka. From there, they will come back or they will be dispatched to a different loka. This is the whole idea. And now you know why people chant this chapter at the time of the death, hoping that you will get into the Dakshinayanam. That is not good. Of course, chanting Bhagavad Gita is always good, but that is not going to change your karma. Again, if you personally ask me, I don't think this is extremely useful for spiritual seekers like us. You can just learn, understand, and leave it. That's my personal take, and each one of you have your own choice. And being a Vedanta student, this is not absolutely required. And last week I told you also, Swami Vivekananda commented on this, that he did not understand this portion. So that's what it is.
What Shankaracharya, his thought?
Shankaracharya just commented on this. He was also not very much interested on this. He just commented it and went away. So Shankaracharya makes, I'm glad that you asked that question. Shankaracharya makes one observation here. So Shankaracharya makes one observation that he's just saying that not just the karma, means upasana is also very important. That's all. It's just an observation. Shankaracharya commented very little on this verse and went away. So as spiritual seekers, this is not very helpful to you. You can choose to believe, not to believe. Again, the two principles. Is that relevant? I don't think this is much relevant. One reason is, in the modern times, nobody can gain that type of, I won't say nobody, but or ordinary people like me cannot get into these type of advanced meditation technique. So when I cannot gain that advanced meditation technique, this path is not relevant to me. So this is not relevant and this is not very beneficial to me. I would rather go to the path which I can test here and now, which was confirmed and reconfirmed by many people, which is the path of Jivan Mukti. If not, why not come back and take one more birth? What does it matter? Again, that is my personal take. Every teacher has their own opinion, but this is my personal take.
Chinmayanandaji and Dayanandji, they also think the same thing?
Yeah, most of these masters do not went to this level of detail. They just mentioned it as something that is given in the scriptures. They just mentioned it and went away.
So basically, karma is what will.
Yeah, it's an elaboration or the second level of expansion on the law of karma. I would limit myself with the first level. This is again me. It's like astrology and all, right? So a lot of people believe in astrology. So interestingly, I got a query. I'm going to give my answer. You can choose to please forgive me for being honest again. One query was, do you believe in astrology? Personally, I'm not a big fan of astrology. So that is my take. But you can again choose to believe or not to believe. Is that beneficial? For some people, it is beneficial. I don't understand that completely. So I would rather believe in the higher God and karma rather than this astrological law. This is my take. I'm answering it because I got a query in the WhatsApp since I was talking about this. And just that is my answer.
So Rajesh, Kundalini Yoga is all about Krama Mukti then?
No, actually Kundalini Yoga also is going to help you to get Jivan Mukti, but Raja Yoga, advanced Raja Yoga or Kundalini Yoga, that type of meditation practices is required for you to willfully give up the life, because advanced means Kundalini Yoga, they can eject their prana according to their will. So it provides that tools and techniques for this advanced Upasana. So this is only one exceptional chapter in the Gita. When I went through the whole Gita, there is no portion which I felt a little bit of helpless in understanding and comprehending completely like this. This is only one area. So I went through almost all the commentaries and everything. And what I discussed is purely my thoughts. So please don't get influenced by that. You all are can think and you can select and believe what is good for you. I use the word very carefully, belief, because this is a matter of belief. That is 100% sure. So if you think about karma yoga, right? At least you can experience that a little bit. When you practice this Panchamahayajna, when you practice the Ishwararpana Buddhi, when you practice the Prasada Buddhi, you see that change in yourself here and now. You don't have to wait for a post-mortem reward. When you practice the Upasana Yoga, you see that wonderful, wonderful change here and now. But this is, how do you prove it? Have to die. So such post-mortem thing, it's like somebody tells that if I do these three things, you will be going to heaven. First of all, it's a non-verifiable belief. First of all, if there is a heaven, I don't know. I cannot prove it. Then by following this teaching, I'm going to go to heaven. I cannot prove it. Even if I go to heaven, whether I'm going to like it, I will be free from all sufferings. I don't know. So that's the problem. That's exactly the problem here also. So
Yeah, I think, Rajesh, it's if we believe in it, it's going to be beneficial in a way that you will be doing more upasana yoga. That may eventually may help you in next generation or
absolutely
many
absolutely
life after.
Yeah. So that is the relevance of this teaching. So if you believe in this, you will practice this advanced meditation technique, which will definitely 100% it is going to help you. That was my final comment. You said it. Any questions? Okay, so now Krishna is going to talk about this in one more verse, and the next two verses he comes back and gives us the most practical teaching and conclude this chapter. And what is that most practical teaching? I said that when Anu was chanting. Anu, could you please chant that verse 28? Then we'll stop here.
Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu
I'm sorry, 27.
Naite sriti partha janan yogi muhyati kaschana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna.
Krishna concludes this by saying that what? Anu, could you chant that last two lines of the 27 verse? Tasmat
sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna.
That is the conclusion, which is relevant, which is not subjected to any belief, which is going to help us completely. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. That is the teaching, which is Krishna style. Okay. So next week we'll talk about that. A lot of things people misinterpret this chapter. They say that, okay, you can do all nonsense. Just at the time of your death, you do Narayana, you will be in Brahmaloka. And second thought is, even if you practice everything, if you don't remember the Lord at the last moment, you are gone. Such teachings are not correct, right? These teachings are there. Even in the earlier stage, Krishna said, right? Therefore, all the time, practice right now yoga. You cannot wait till the end of your life. So that's it. So we will conclude this chapter next week, and then we will spend one day recapping this chapter, summarizing this chapter, because this is a chapter which can be misinterpreted very badly. So we will do that. And then we will go to the Vedantic teaching. One of the brilliant chapter 9, Raja Vidya Ragichaguhyam. Any other questions?
I do have many questions, Rajesh.
Okay, so we will, many questions means we'll wait next week. We can discuss. Even I don't mind. We'll dedicate one day for question answers. Once this chapter is over, let's pause one day and dedicate one day for Q&A, because without Q&A, this won't be complete. By this time, we should have a clear understanding of the end-to-end path and where each of these yoga fits together very well. Okay, so we can stop here. We'll come back next week and complete this chapter. Any questions, Anu, please post it just send it to me. We will review that. Next week, we can finish this in 30 minutes, and the rest we can use Q&A. And if questions pending, we will spend some time, and I'll try to answer as much as possible.
Sure. Thank you, Rajesh.
Okay, so you can do the final invocation.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you.